This is the Digital Trust Podcast. In every episode, we strive to bring support to those of you who serve on the front lines and in the trenches of data and technology. We endeavor to bring understanding to the under-resourced and underappreciated, help remove your stress, and provide relief to your pain. Welcome to the Digital Trust Podcast. Sit down with us as we give you hard-hitting advisory conversations to help you build digital trust with your stakeholders and clients, and actionable takeaways to help you become a digitally trustworthy organization.
Hello, everyone, and thanks again for joining us on the Digital Trust Podcast. My name is Christian Redshaw. I'm the host of the show, and with me once again for the second part in the series is Dr. Mandy Haeburn-Little, Joanna Godard, and Alan Greig. Welcome once again to the three of you. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Lovely. So it is a Digital Trust Podcast, and I'm sure you have your own thoughts on digital trust. So I'd love to go around the room one at a time and hear what digital trust means in your world. And maybe we can start once again with Mandy and go from there.
So I'm very pleased to attempt to answer that. And I think it's such a current question. And it's never more so when we look at the issues that are affecting safety for all ages. And for me, trust online is really about having confidence to know what you're doing, who can help you if you're unsure, but also also to feel safe in your own environment. So we are about to embark on a series of podcasts which are called Tech to Protect, which I think is a very neat way of summarizing how tech can be used as a power for the good. And I think that unfortunately, in the last few years, we've all been far too aware and made very conscious, of course, of the dangers of aspects of being online. But when we look at being online, we need to create a world where it feels good to work, to live, to communicate, and to thrive online. Mm-hmm. So for me, it is about that individual confidence. And if I can just relate that back to BRIM, when we look now at what to do with this model internationally, which I know, Christian, you want to talk about, there are so many sectors who can contribute to a model like this from across public and private. So, for example, we were recently involved at an event where there were many Marines who were there, and I've already worked with a lot of the veteran community. And some of these people, including the Signal Corps, and some of their experiences are absolutely pivotal to what's trying to be achieved here. So I think that what we've done principally with this model is to create a model that others can come into where the requirement lies. And that's where both Alan and Joanna bring so much to it. But I'm sure Alan has his own views of what trust means.
We talk about digital trust, we first need to discuss understanding the technology. I think there's a lot of organizations and a lot of users of technology out there who just place their trust in the technology because they have no option. We think it's okay for the likes of me, who to an extent understands the technology, but many of us don't. And many of us in everyday life are reliant on that technology. We use our phones now to pay for things. We share images online. We share our lives online, our location online. And we're very much connected. And, so digital trust is important, but I think we need to take it back to understanding the technology. To what extent do we understand the technology? To what extent do we understand some of the risks that we're placing ourselves in by using the technology?
Very well said. And last but not least, Joanna, I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. I know that in the last episode, you were talking about marketing and trustworthy marketing and potential claims, unsubstantiated claims from vendors to what could be considered an unsophisticated audience for those marketing claims. So that would be one example of digital trust in your world. But please tell us what digital trust means for you personally.
It is a good example, and it is much wider. And for me, digital trust, when it comes to the topic of cyber, must include relevance and how we communicate that information to people. So particularly for small business, some people are working 12 or 14 hours a day. They're not at a laptop. They're not at a desk. They run their business off a mobile phone. And so when there is overwhelming information about cyber, voluminous text on websites or PDFs, it is not practical to consume that on a mobile phone while you're working out in the field or traveling. And we also find that, particularly in the smaller side of SME, there is a very high proportion of entrepreneurs running micro businesses, whether they are profit or not for profit or third sector. And again, many studies tend to see over 80% of entrepreneurs are reported as being dyslexic. So when there isn't a neurodiverse strategy to communication, we are not best serving anybody. And therefore, there is little trust because they don't believe, whether that is the police or the government or a private sector company, they don't believe you understand their business. There isn't trust there because that isn't how they operate or how they consume their information. So trust for me, and that's where I've been working extremely closely in our work with law enforcement, is a neurodiverse strategy around communicating that information in a far more digestible way.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Joanna. Just want to dive into the SME a little bit at that SME level. And I think maybe starting with Alan this time, you mentioned working with students and preparing them to help SMEs. And obviously that resonates with the students. I think it's a win for the SME as well, but you're also helping police to connect and enabling the local police force to connect with SMEs as well. What do you find is the messaging that resonates with, as Joanna said, a business owner that has running their business on their mind and they're working long days and they don't really have time to really handle this topic and take the full weight of it? What is the messaging that you find is taking root and having an effect?
So we stop talking about technology. It's, I'm a big advocate for almost deleting the use of the word cyber, because it's not, for these business owners, it's not about cyber, it's not about technology, it's about risk. We need to be having risk conversations. And so business owners are coming to this initiative, and we've all had many discussions with them across many different types of business. They could be making widgets, they could be lawyers, accountants, hairdressers. It doesn't matter. They just say, I have to place my trust in using technology. I don't understand the technology. I need the technology to run my business. And I feel as if I'm exposed to risk, and who can help me? There is also an element of suspicion towards the technology industry. And I think it's just a case of, many of us may have seen, we have these YouTube videos and then there's sponsorship by XYZ technology company. And if you buy this specific technology, you'll be 100% secure.
Sure.
And I think there's also an expectation that technology services are expensive. So therefore, organizations are faced with that decision of, do I just place my trust in the technology and I don't have someone come in and try to understand what the risk is? So what we're doing here is that we're helping police. So it's community policing. Policing want to talk to the businesses and say, we would like to make you more resilient because it reduces crime. And then if we look at students in academia, students go through 3 or 4 years of a course and they learn about cyber, and then they finish on the Friday, and then on the Monday, they move into the industry. How can we better prepare them for that? And the opportunity to work with organizations and help organizations understand the risk. And probably one of the most important elements of this for me is to say to the students, it's not just okay for you to really understand the technology. You have to be able to translate that to people who do not. So when you talk to organizations, you have to say, this is what it actually means.
Yeah. So moving away from IT and cyber and into business risk and resilience, and maybe looking at translating into reputational implications, for example, on cyber incidents, and dollars and cents and pounds and pence in your case as well. That's excellent, Alan. I think we probably have time, once again, for one more question in this episode. So where I would like to go right now is the international plans. So I mentioned last time, you guys have been walking this journey for quite a number of years now. You've had traction, you've had lessons learned. And I was fortunate to be able to hear the stories from Ian Kirby. We had him on the show for 3 episodes. So he was able to testify about how things are working and lessons learned. How can we apply those over here in North America? And what plans do you have internationally beyond the UK and even beyond North America to replicate this model and help make the world a better place?
So perhaps if I start that, I think one of the really remarkable things about the BRIM model is that we've only been going for these 6 years. And during that time, we have had a great deal of international interest. Now, in some countries, it might be that they're interested in how this fits in with the armed forces. Others are also very keen to replicate policing and to understand how that would work. And what we are able to do is to take chunks of this, because we wrote every aspect of this as a module. And that's a really important point, because it is almost plug and play. So if you want to speak to BRIM, you will be able to talk to Joanna about her very specific and really unrivaled skills in marketing and data, Alan in terms of the vocational and all of the security side and the strategy. So at the moment, we're engaged in a number of conversations. I'm very pleased to be doing so. And that includes the States, and it includes Canada, and it includes a number of other international countries who are keen to understand, because it is, as you said earlier, a win-win. It's a low-cost delivery option for policing or for government or who is funding this, but with a very high delivery and a very maximum impact immediate delivery. So we're used to delivering at pace to a quality standard through that modular approach. I don't know if Joanna or Alan want to add on to that.
Yeah, I think what is testimony to the model is this number of countries where the interest has come from, but the variety of sources from those countries. It's a complete mix. Some countries it's a government approach, some is academia, some is enterprise business, some is SME business, and some is law enforcement. And some countries, we've got multiple points of that interest. So for me, that really, truly reflects the model working. And of course, cyber has no jurisdiction when it comes to risk. So a number of companies that have become involved in the UK trade internationally, they operate internationally. And so they're very keen as well to see this instantly within their own supply chains and their own customer bases and operational bases throughout the world. So it is a very dynamic and varied set of interest internationally. And I've been working with Mandy and Alan to support them as they expand the BRIM team of specialists in anticipation to help internationally as well.
On the international level, I've got some introductions to make for you, including the Safe House Initiative in the US. So really looking forward to that and continuing these dialogues and getting traction. And I want to say a special thank you to our viewers and listeners for tuning in, and thank you to you, Mandy, to Joanna, and to Alan for sharing your wisdom with us today. We'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for joining us today on the Digital Trust Podcast. If you found this conversation helpful, please share it with someone you care about. And if you'd like to receive our monthly newsletter, please click the link in the description to subscribe. And to put your mind at ease, our newsletter will include episode summaries with key points and actionable takeaways, plus a heads up on the upcoming episode guests. Rest assured, it won't be a spammy sales message, and we will never sell or share your information. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you on the next episode.